Welcome into Point Blank, brought to you by Fitz Roofing. I'm Brandon Strange, joined always by ESPN Houston's Joel Blank from the press box. Joel, let's talk some Texans because we have some news this week that Jets safety Jamal Adams has requested a trade out of New York. One of the places that he's requested to be traded to, amongst 7 other teams, is the Houston Texans. And so it's pretty interesting when we look at this. Let's talk about what it means that the Texans are mentioned amongst these 7 teams.
It's the have versus the have-nots, right? You'd rather be on the list of 7 teams than not, and it's a positive sign if you're the Texans, you're on the list. If you're a Houston sports fan and you remember how ticked off you were when Dwight Howard gave the teams that he wanted to play for in the NBA and the Rockets weren't on that list and how irked they were, well, you should be happy if you're a Texans fan because it means like the culture is still good enough and it's an environment players want to play in. The list is all 7 teams, winners. For the majority of it, it's playoff teams with the exception of the Eagles, and they had injuries. So you know that you are looked at as a winning franchise that players still want to play for. And it starts with Deshaun Watson. You've got a franchise quarterback that's capable of winning. He's young. He's going to be there for the next foreseeable future amount of years, and he's going to put you in a position to win. So for a younger player like Adams to say, I want to play in Houston, I want to play on the Texans as one of the teams that if I had to choose, I want to go to, that's a very big positive sign for that franchise, Bill O'Brien and otherwise, for saying that regardless of what has been said in the Hopkins trade and everything else that was mentioned, hey, it's a premier destination in the NFL.
It is a remarkable turnaround in reputation from just a few weeks ago following the DeAndre Hopkins trade. Before we get into whether the Texans can even make this happen, why don't you give us a word from our sponsor at Fitz Roofing?
Yeah, we love the people at Fitz Roofing because they're dedicated to Houston. And just like they're dedicated to our listeners with SportsMap and the sponsorship that they give us, they're dedicated to people in Houston with all their roofing needs. And to show it, they do free no obligation inspections. It costs you nothing. You just call 832-521-3001. They come to your house. They tell you what they can do or your business, and then they go on their way. If you want them to come back, you just reach back out. They do fantastic work, and it doesn't cost you a cent to get that free no obligation inspection. Fitz Roofing, making a difference, one home at a time.
Do the Texans have enough trade equity or draft equity specifically to be able to make this happen?
Because of the Miami trade for Tunsil and all the different resources that Bill O'Brien gave up, because he wasn't able to get those resources back when he traded DeAndre Hopkins, he's not in a position of strength when it comes to draft picks to be thrown into trades. Now it's going to be, do the Jets like anybody on the Texans roster that they might be willing to part with and say, hey, if I weigh it out, adding an Adams, depending on who I have to give up, is more advantageous to the team, and so we're willing to do that. Because if they don't want someone on your roster and you're going to be really strapped to give them the picks that they're interested in, it doesn't matter if you're on the list or not. Chances are going to be pretty slim that you're going to be able to pull off a deal.
One of the things we talked about before we jumped on air to record this was you mentioned kind of the incentive for a player to want to get here, because when Bill O'Brien decides that you're his guy, the compensation's pretty sweet.
Oh, if he gets you and he got you, then you get paid. And that is just a simple fact. From Nick Martin to Whitney Merciless to Kaimi Fairbairn, it doesn't matter what the stats show in terms of how you rank at your position. You're going to be paid in the top 6 or 7 players at your position in the entire NFL. If you're Adams and that's what you're after, then that's why you're after the Texans. Because you know if Billy O gets his hands on you, he's going to take care of you financially. And that's what every player wants in this league.
Well, looking at the situation, it does seem like it is a long shot at this point, but what do you think the impact would be for him coming here? Where does the defense rank with Adams on the team?
I think what you're looking at is from the locker room all the way to the end of the play, you're getting a leader. You're getting a guy that is not afraid to speak up in the locker room and say, hey, follow my lead. I'm going to play this way. He's hard hitting. He's no nonsense. He's gritty. He's tough. Unlike Justin Reed, he hits, he tackles, and he finishes plays. So you know what you're getting on the football field. But in terms of the locker room and in the huddle, here's a guy that other guys can follow. Younger guys can say, I'm going to hitch my wagon to this guy because he gets it and he knows how to win. And veterans are going to respect him because they know coming in, he's going to give them 150%. So I think across the board, he checks off every box in terms of the exact kind of guy that you want for now and going into the future on your defensive football team. You want a leader. You want a guy that's going to lead by example, but also not afraid to speak up, that's going to be respected throughout your locker room. That's the kind of guy that fits beautifully with a Texans team that's kind of trying to figure out how do they make the transition defensively from their leader in J.J. Watt, who's getting older and has been banged up, to a younger guy that can kind of pick up the torch and carry it. Adams could be that guy.